Manfi in Mani Division, Northwest region of Cameroon, as security forces gunmen clash in broad daylight in Manfi. Many fear dead in Thursday heavy gun exchange that lasted several hours, according to newspaper sources, who also talk about the 2018 state budget that was finally adopted in this accordance with members or MPs of the Social Democratic Front Party, will insist the Anglophone crisis must be debated in Parliament. Climate change has often been dismissed as non-existent by people who refuse to believe the phenomenon is a real, inclusive. U.S. President Donald Trump, as leaders deliberated this week in Paris on how to accelerate climate finance at the One Planet Summit, will explain the realities in Cameroon and elsewhere in Africa. The program is News Roundup of the Week. Still this. Welcome to another edition of the program, News Roundup of the Week. I'm Conti Maureen, and as usual, I'm delighted to be with you. And my guest on today's program is called Charles Anana. He is a former Senate.
United States Senate candidate, yes.
United Senate candidate. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Now, you are in Cameroon, even though you'll be leaving for the US very soon, but you're offering training to companies in Cameroon. You want to better their output. Is that what you're out?
Yes, two things. Number one, we've been here now for a couple of weeks. We've been talking to Cameroonian companies, and we've identified and realized that the problems that Cameroonian and African companies are facing are a lot deeper than what we initially thought.
Now, what are the problems?
What are the problems? Number one, management. Operational excellence, and that's one of the areas where we're trying to help companies reduce their costs, but more importantly, make them much more competitive. If you look at the top 150 companies in the world, none is from Africa. Meanwhile, you have African talents rubbing shoulders with the best and the brightest in the world. And that is why some of us have decided to come home and see how we can help our own businesses to become a little bit more competitive. As I was mentioning before, on Wednesday, the 20th, we're offering a free workshop in Douala on how to understand the voice of your customer and customer satisfaction model. So we want our businesses to understand when a customer walks into their door and requests for service, what is he or she really asking for? Because when we talk to about 90% of our companies, it's very clear we do not understand what the needs and the voices of our customers are. And there is a methodology to do that, and we are here to see how we can. This is what I have been doing in the United States for over 20 years and in Europe. So we want to see how we can help our African businesses, and particular Cameroonian businesses, to become a little bit more competitive.
Now the question I want to ask is, are they adhering to your call?
Some are. The challenge we have in Cameroon is getting the information out. Because the more they hear, and you know anything in Cameroon, when it's free, everybody comes. But the idea is, we want to help Cameroonian companies. And beyond the free workshop on understand the voice of our customer, we also want to show them on how to operate what we call operational excellence, how to reduce your costs, how to reduce defects that you produce in your operation, how to make sure that you get the best out of you get more from what you sell, as opposed to, there are two ways to make profit. Let me put it this way. You either sell more, or you get more from what you sell. And operational excellence is showing companies how to make more, to get more from what they sell. I would just like to end, before we get in more depth, those who want to know more or learn a little bit more can give us a call after the show at 672-06-4748. I just repeat, 672-06-4748. And we can talk more, and I can invite your company to be part of this free workshop to help Cameroonian businesses understand how to make their companies much more competitive.
Now, we have statistics that show that most companies collapse in Cameroon within 2 years. Can we say the business climate is a problem?
Oh, it's a severe problem in Cameroon. Again, when you look at businesses, the first thing we did, we looked around for companies that we saw 5 years ago. Lots of them have closed. And those that are still operating are struggling. So we are the economic climate is not the best in Cameroon, but we can turn it around. That's what I do. I do business transformation. I turn companies and communities around. And that is what made my strength when I was running for United States Senate. They say, who is this guy who can turn around companies, can turn around communities, can turn around states? But unfortunately, when we come home, we are looked upon as strangers. I am a Cameroonian born. Maybe today I have a different nationality, but we need to encourage our youth, our brothers and sisters in the diaspora to come home and add their own 2 cents in the economic development of our country. Because that is what we really need. We need experts, people who have done this thing, to show our businesses, our brothers, join hands with them, with our brothers in Cameroon, to help our businesses to grow. Now, have you been
in other African countries or just Cameroon?
I've been to many African countries. I've been to Nigeria, I've been to Kenya, I've been to South Africa.
And what is your balance sheet in those countries?
In terms of when you say balance sheet?
Balance sheet in that the companies that you try to follow up or you try to dish out the new techniques.
Oh, they're very receptive. And remember, let's take South Africa, for example. South Africa is a very Anglo-Saxon country, so they strongly believe in improving the skill sets of their employees when they're in-house. You find a little bit of a challenge when you start talking you go to the French part of Africa, because the French approach is not in-house training. It's not the same, right? They strongly believe in bringing individuals with that skill set already. Meanwhile, the Anglo-Saxon culture requires the manager, you should have between 8 and 15% of your revenue has to go back in training, in developing your employees so that they can give you the very best.
Which means that there are 2 different strategies you're using?
We're trying to let them understand that even when there's a best strategy, there's a better strategy, and the better strategy is give your employees the skill set. Train your employees when they're in-house. Show them how to do. Get them more committed. And when we talk about commit or get them more engaged, what do we mean by engagement? It's an extra effort that the employee goes above and beyond what is required, what is expected of them. So, and that is why, again, it's a little bit of a bigger challenge when we come to Africa, because a lot of our folks, they work because they work within certain companies because they don't have alternatives. On the other hand, you have to love your job. You have to, when you go home, you think about the job. You think about improvements you can make the next day. But if they're barely surviving, they're not being paid enough. When they leave work, they're still hustling to get something to feed their family. So they cannot be that engaged and that committed. And we are trying to make business leaders to understand the future is in Africa. We need to invest in our companies. We need to invest in our employees. We need to give them the skill set to be competitive. And we are here to help out, to help Cameroonian and African businesses do that.
Now, I want us to re-examine the ambience that reigned at the National Assembly this week with the adoption of the 2018 state budget. We'll be right back.
Expressions in the manner of the Social Democratic Front at the Ngoikele Glass House during the just ended November budgetary session. Well-planned strategy, they said. It all started with boycott at the opening. Then the request for debate on the Anglophone crisis at the lower house of parliament. Absence of reaction, they then resorted to obstructing other debates in the house if nothing is said on the Anglophone crisis.
And we did that for some of the plenary. We did that for the Prime Minister's speech on the economic and social policy, and we did that on the draft budget. All what we did had the effects it had. So the message which we wanted to send across went across.
Their actions serve their problem and get the attention it needs.
The speaker, who ought to have had the reflection of a statesman, was trying to mock the SDF parliamentarian that we were doing whistles, we were doing blowing vuvuzelas and so on. We want to say that he should rise up to the level of a statesman and interpret what we did.
SDF crying for their beloved country.
We are crying for a country which is about to collapse. We are crying for our children who are indefinitely in detention. We are crying for our children who are not going to school. We are crying for soldiers and citizens who are dying on a daily basis.
Balance sheet of the just ended session presented the press December 13 in Yaoundé. SDF sees self on the forefront.
I want to exhort all freedom fighters that when the regime becomes old, the tendency is to restrict freedom of the press. It is our duty, you of the Fourth Estate, and we of Parliament to fight back. We will not accept that freedom of expression that we have fought for 27 years is suddenly blocked.
They are the people's representatives.
We represent the military people that are dying there in Manyo. We represent the population, the civilians that are dying there in Manyo. So we cannot, close our mouth. We cannot fold our hands. Those people are the people we represent because the military vote for us and everybody votes for us.
On the whereabouts of Honorable Joseph Riba, reporters were told he is still an active parliamentarian.
Yesterday, he was applauded by everybody, and today you are asking questions. As the Secretary General said, he has himself to answer your questions. He is alive, so you can get back to him to give you what method he is using.
For the just ended parliamentary session, the SDF parliamentarians conclude their activities is a democratic fight, which is to continue.
They came out in their numbers to once more pray for the repose of the soul of their bishop, late Bishop Jean-Marie Benoit Bala, in a solemn mass in honor of the prelate at the Saint Benoit Parish in Guédé in Bafia, a parish created by the late bishop in 2009. Christians continue to pray for his lordship Bala, who died under very controversial circumstances. The mass was said by the bishop of Bafang alongside other prelates. His lordship Abraham Kome called on all Christians not to relent in their prayers and also to continue in the works of the bishop, such as the construction work of the parish initiated by the late prelate.
L'essentiel ne peut pas mourir.
The initiative taken by our late colleague cannot die. He created this parish 9 years ago, and coming here today to see the level of work he had attained already goes forth to show that all the good work we do in this life cannot die down when we die.
Ne meurt pas avec nous et fait de nous des éternels vivants.
It would be recalled that the lifeless body of his lordship Jean-Marie Benoit Bala was fished out of water on June 2nd, 2017, after he had served the parish for 14 years.
The initiative to draw up a regional territorial plan is aimed at strengthening and sustaining Cameroon's economic revival process.
You know that we have a contract from Minepat to draw up the territorial planning and sustainable development plan of Northwest.
I'm very glad that the government put confidence in us to guide people with some of our knowledge and with a lot of Cameroonian specialists, especially from the University of Bamenda, to talk to you people and try to depict a strategy for your future.
Divisional officers for Bui, divisional delegates, mayors and other stakeholders who attended the meeting in Kumbo have been urged to trust the program and collaborate in order for it to succeed.
And we do believe that during this second phase, with the experts will be on the field to collect data. We are sure that we will fully implement sustainable development in our division.
For over a decade, Cameroon has realized a shared development vision by 2035, formulated as Cameroon, an emerging, democratic and united country in diversity. The achievement of the vision, according to experts, is based on the adoption and implementation of a number of strategies that led to the elaboration of the Growth and Employment Strategy paper that runs until 2020. It focuses on growth acceleration, creation of formal jobs, governance and strategic state management.
How do we do all of this? Even the regional council is not put in place, because how do you talk regional development when the institution that is supposed to guarantee the development is not there? So all of this makes us to think that it will end up window dressing exercise.
Experts and other stakeholders involved in the project will, in the days ahead, meet with the local population to collect useful information that will help in formulating the plan.
The Administrative and Security Committee meeting for the Far North region held recently at a time when there has been a fresh suicide attack in the area. On the table of discussion, a total of 6 presentations were made with focus on education, health, agriculture, public works and customs. The discussions which ensued were supervised by the governor of the Far North region, Mijiyawa Bakari, who dished out some guidelines and recommendations to his collaborators. People are beginning to return to their villages since places are a lot calmer now. About 230,000 displaced people are beginning to come back to the Far North region from Nigeria. The number of attacks from the radical Boko Haram sect have declined. We can also spot some tourists from Congo, from France and Germany in the locality. Their presence is an indication that things are getting back to normal and many more tourists will be visiting the area. Mijiyawa Bakari noted with satisfaction the fact that several schools have reopened in the area after the spate of terrorist attacks which hit the Far North region over the past few years. Several hostages have also been released and are glad to be back home. While in captivity, I suffered a lot in the hands of my captors. I served as a farmer to them, and they even threatened to kill me, but my elder brother stepped in. I am glad to be back home. Addressing concerns raised by many with regards to food insecurity and famine, the Far North boss brushed aside all of these as rumors aimed at instilling fear in the population.
Welcome back. I'm still accompanied by Charles Anana. He is the United States Senate candidate. Now, I want us to talk about the 2018 budget. You've been following it very closely. Now, what particularly caught your attention when we're talking about the 2018 budget?
Yeah, when I look at the 2018 budget, I was very disappointed because it seems to do the same thing over and over. And you cannot do the same thing over and over and expect different results, right? You remember what Einstein said about doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. The challenge in Africa, the challenge in Cameroon is sustainable development, sustainable jobs, create jobs that are sustainable. So my hope that the budget would have focused more on issues that fight poverty and create jobs. Even the budget should have declared war on poverty and not the poor people, such that companies can invest in infrastructure, real investment in infrastructure that will create jobs in people doing roads. Look at our railroads. Our railroad, all of us remember what happened in Ezeka. We need a budget that reflects the current state of the Cameroonian economy. It's the budget that we have does not reflect what the actual needs of Cameroon. Our priority is to transform our current economic position or our economic structure, which relies heavily on raw materials and production and export of raw materials. We must transform those raw materials to value-added goods, because if we can transform those materials, we create jobs for our youth. Because once our youth are employed, everybody is happy.
Does it mean that the budget does not reflect the realities or the needs of the people?
In my humble opinion, that's just my humble opinion, it does not reflect the need. If you talk to the average Cameroonian on the street here in Douala or somewhere in Yaoundé or in Kitingu and ask him what does the budget for 2018 reflects, he will tell you he has no clue. And if you ask even his parliamentarian what that budget reflects, he cannot tell you. Meanwhile, we are in a situation where our youth, some people say 45, some say 35% of our youth are unemployed. People with degrees, they go to school, they come out, they cannot find jobs. We need a budget that invests in infrastructure, that invests in healthcare, that invests in education. Right now, we have a technological wave going through. Africa lost big time, but this is an opportunity for us to get into the digital age. But for us to get into the digital age, we have to invest in our children. We have to invest in the teachers who teach our children. When we don't pay those teachers, what do we expect them to teach our children?
All right. Now we have the 2018 budget, and at the same time we have a crisis in the northwest region of Cameroon. We have a Boko Haram in the north. We have the 2018 presidential election. Is it possible? Is Cameroon going to meet up to these budgets? How are you going to get the money or the funds?
I think it's an issue of prioritization. It's an issue of prioritization, which is more important to the government, which is more important to the Cameroonian people. Is it a fight in, as you were talking about, the fight that we're seeing going on in Manfe, in broad daylight?
More is invested in these problems that Cameroon is faced with.
So the question is, should we invest more money sending military to the northwest and southwest, or we should invest more money educating our children, letting our children understand that they are part of this country, they are full-fledged Cameroonians and deserve to be part of the governing of this nation? Which one is a priority for us? We as a nation have to decide if really we truly love this nation. If we love this nation, we should invest in our children. They are the future, and the future of the world is in Africa. African children cannot be on the sideline, and for them not to be on the sideline, we have to invest in them. We have to let them understand that their voice counts, and they will lead this country tomorrow. So again, as I said, I think the budget, it's in the emphasis on the budget is in the complete opposite direction from in my humble opinion. We should invest in things that will create jobs for every single Cameroonian. Every single Cameroonian should be able to have a job, should be fully employed, and every Cameroonian should be able to have health care. And we have none of those now. If you look at what happened in Yaoundé the other day with help with a patient from the hospital, we train some of the best and brightest medical doctors in the world are Cameroonians. They leave the country because they are not being compensated fairly. We cannot train the best and let them leave the country, and then we are here. We want to invest somewhere else. We want to invest in arms. It's sad. It's sad. I just find it really, really unfortunate.
Now the budget was finally voted, and the cry of SDF MPs was not finally given attention.
Well, again, I think you guys you already know my position with regards to the SDF. But it saddens me that out of 10 children, 2 children are kicking and screaming that we have problems, and the Parliament, our National Assembly, refuses to even discuss it. It's unfortunate. It's really, really, really unfortunate. I just hope our clergy, all Cameroonians of goodwill, our political leaders, our chiefs can stand up and say, enough is enough. Let's bring this conflict to an end. There are many ways in which we can settle differences. We don't have to use force all the time. We don't have to spill blood to resolve our differences.
All right, now
it's most unfortunate.
Now let's watch other news-making events of the week. We'll be right back.
15 years after the death and burial of his father, the man whose name we got as Kennedy Cedric has decided to dig up and burn the skull of his late father. The Christian of the Witness Embassy of the Baptist Church in Cameroon was taken into custody by elements of the Mbuda Gendarmerie Brigade as an angry mob prepared to serve him mob justice. Kennedy Cedric, who was absent at the time of his father's demise, says unknown persons are using the decayed remains of his late father to frustrate his efforts through witchcraft.
Quand mon père est mort, je n'étais pas là. J'ai fait 2 ans dehors.
I do not know what killed my father because I was in the East region when he died. Upon my return to Mbuda, I refused to worship the skull of my father according to tradition. Since then, I dream of dead bodies each time I sleep. I later came to the understanding that some members of my family are using my father's decayed body to make my life miserable, so I decided to dig up and burn the skull.
Je vois les morts, les esprits viennent m'attaquer. J'ai dit ok, comme c'est ça qui est un canal que vous avez utilisé pour m'atteindre, je suis allé prendre ça et j'ai brûlé.
Eyewitnesses to the shocking act decided to serve Cedric with mob justice alongside his pastor, who is accused of complicity in the matter.
Je suis un pasteur. J'ai enseigné sur 5 ans.
I am a pastor. Has he ever seen me burn or heard me preach about the burning of skeletons in church? When he came to church with the skeleton of his father's skull, I decided to come and report the matter to the competent authorities. The timely intervention of gendarmerie officers spared them the beating of their lives. However, the accused have been taken into custody pending investigations.
Nous avons trouvé devant l'église. Déjà.
When we got to the church, we found the skeleton of the skull, which was already completely burnt. We saved the accused from mob justice and brought him here at our post for further investigations.
Parce qu'il était prêt à être lynché et nous l'avons conduit directement à l'unité pour que l'enquête suive son cours.
For now, a total of 4 people, including pastors and Christians, have been taken into custody for digging up and burning the head skeleton of Kennedy Cedric's late father. They will be taken before the law courts to be tried for their act. Furnished apartments are now in vogue. Many more people go for furnished apartments instead of hotels these days. While many say furnished apartments are more homely, others say they prefer the services they get from hotels.
I prefer
a hotel like this one because it is very neat and the services offered are very encouraging. The hotels offer services I cannot find at any furnished apartment, so I'll pick a hotel as a better lodging facility. There is a general opinion that hotels only offer lodging facilities. Persons who have knowledge in the domain, however, say lodging is just one of the many activities and services offered by a hotel.
Dans un hôtel, vous pouvez vous faire héberger.
In a hotel, you can get lodging as well as cooking and restaurant services. There are many other activities which a hotel offers to its public. With a furnished apartment, it is different. People are more at home with the little services at their disposal. They do their cooking and washing on their own. In a hotel, there are persons charged to handle that.
Les personnes qui voyagent retrouvent un esprit comme celui qu'ils ont laissé en partant de chez eux.
Over the last 3 years, the Ministry of Tourism has instituted taxes which furnished apartment owners are expected to pay. Hotel owners, however, think furnished apartments and hotels are on the same level and should pay equal taxes. They are thereby calling for some form of regulation of the taxes for the different forms of lodging facilities available to the public.
Elle n'a pas pris en compte les différentes catégories.
Some furnished apartments are even costlier than hotels, yet they pay lesser taxes than hotels. The concerned ministry should review taxes paid by the different lodging facilities vis-à-vis their prices and the services they offer.
Défini à 500 francs, quel que soit le type d'établissement.
Despite their similarities, we cannot rule out the fact that furnished apartments are calm, offer the much-needed independence and the feeling of being at home with the possibility of making one's own meals. At a hotel, besides having a comfortable room and hotel attendants, clients benefit from other services like a fully equipped gym, meeting new people and even a beauty parlor.
They were originally 36 agro-pastoral farmer groups earmarked to receive support grants from the Program for the Improvement of Competitiveness of Family Agro-Pastoral Farms Tuesday in Bamenda, but 7 were not privileged to have benefited. They are those who still have situations to regularize back in their localities. That is just one of the reasons why ASEF has put in place stringent measures for the effective use of funds put at their disposal by France-Cameroon cooperation ties through the Ministries of Agriculture and Livestock. The unbended nature of the rules is what has kept it moving since inception in 2008.
National level and certified at regional level, and so have fulfilled the condition for funding. Now that the money is at that level, it is recommended that it should put it only for the purpose of which it was requested. No embezzlement and no misappropriation. And it is thanks to this that we ensure that this will go a long way to increase production and productivity in the rural world and consequently eliminating poverty.
My other region, it is that the work has been done and we are very satisfied. Not we, the people that are responsible for the management of the program, but our stakeholders, the two ministries, the Ministry of Economic Planning, the Ministry of Finance, and also the Agence Française de Développement, who is financing the program. From last July, we signed a new convention. The government of Cameroon and the Agence Française de Développement signed a new convention to finance the third phase of the program.
Having successfully mounted and had their projects selected, farmer groups from Donga Mantung, Bui and Mezam divisions have received checks of over 127 million francs CFA to improve on productivity and standards of living.
We forgo buy things like goat and small cow for a village where we're there, and they go make we some place where we feed that cow and the goat.
We for the money for help with for transport the corn trucks back for house. Then they go help with for sprayer for the spray we are farm. They don't help with plenty in this thing them be important for farmers.
As they return home, the beneficiaries have in the back of their minds the warnings from officials of Minepia and Minade on how the support should be put into effective use to avoid being dragged to court because others are waiting for their turns to also benefit. Chumbe Dominic is a cocoa farmer from Buba, Pinja in the Mongo division. He has passion in agriculture and sees it as the only means of survival in a country where unemployment is high. One of the problems he is facing is lack of finances.
My needs was to buy 44 sprayer and batches to dry cocoa because we are in a region that we deal with cocoa. Yes. So, and as the national coordinator has told us, we have to use the money normally without any error.
Dominic is not the only one facing the problem. He's part of the 32 agro-pastoral farmer groups, 18 from Mongo division and 14 from the Wori, earmarked to receive support grants for the improvement of competitiveness of family agro-pastoral farmers. They received checks worth 175, 391, 52 million francs CFA. In a ceremony that took place in the Littoral region, the Littoral Regional Delegate for Agriculture and Rural Development says there is need for follow-up mechanism to ensure the effective use of funds put at their disposal.
Problem in agriculture or in the livestock or animal production is the problem of funding. Many farmers are complaining that they don't have the funding now. Through the ASEFA, they just received their check and then their funding to put in place their project. We are going to give them all the support, technical support that they need to put in place their project. And also we are going to, as we say, the monitoring and evaluation and control to ensure them that, or to ensure other donors that the funding they are just received today, they will not misuse it.
The farmers were exhorted to make good use of the funds, and if wasted or siphoned, they might end up in jail. It should be recalled the agricultural sector accounts for 48%, livestock 41%, and fishery 3%.
Cameroon's interim commitment to the Economic Partnership Agreement no doubt opened the floodgates for European goods to enter the country. And day by day, the government is doing everything to upgrade the capacities of domestic enterprises to meet up with quality goods from Europe.
There's a lot of things that have been discussed and adopted during this session. But what really was of our concern was the the impetus that has been put into the upgrading program, enterprise upgrading program, because during the 5th session last time, we were concerned by the level, the rate of achievement was 27%.
In order to help local industries withstand the shocks, the European Union-sponsored program to improve Cameroon's competitiveness is bringing its technical support.
We have come out with very good results. The best example I can give to you is the e-registration, creation of a company online, which is one of our best achievements. Now we have done so many things apart this project, such as one-stop shop of Urbanism Act and some others.
The technical team is meeting in Douala to evaluate the strides made so far to upgrade local industries. The European Development Fund and the United Nations Industrial Development Organization provides 10 million euros as financial assistance.
Welcome back. I'm still accompanied by Charles Anana. He is a former United States Senate candidate, and we're talking about tensions in Manfi, a southwest region of Cameroon. This week or Thursday, we had a clash between the military and heavy gunmen in Manfi, southwest region of Cameroon. Now, what's your take on that?
Again, as I mentioned, it's most unfortunate. Some of us who were born in Cameroon in the 60s, we had hoped that we'll never see fighting on our streets. But unfortunately, in the year of our Lord 2017, we'll see fighting in the streets in Cameroon, in Manfi. It's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. This should not have gotten this far. We can resolve this. There are people, there are Cameroonians of goodwill that both parties can respect and come to the table for a peaceful negotiation so that we can bring this to an end. We are telling our children that conflict has to be resolved by force, and that is the wrong way. That is the wrong way to go about it. Africa cannot always be in conflict. We have to find ways in which we resolve our issues, our differences with our neighbors, our differences with our brothers, our differences within our community without picking up arms. There is no African country that manufactures arms, but we are one of the highest users of arms. It's wrong, and it's unfortunate.
Manfi is getting more and more tense, and Manu Traditional Rulers Association finally come out of their shelves in their declaration. They signed December 13. They have condemned both military killings and that of unknown gunmen. Now, what's your take on that?
Well, better late than never, right? Where have they been all this while? Where have they been? Where were they when they were removing students from their hostel and rubbing them in the mud, raping girls left and right? Where were they when the first bullets flew and killed a couple of gendarmes? They wait until we are almost in a there's fight on the streets in Manfi in broad daylight before they are coming out. That's still okay. They say never late, better late than never.
So for you, it's late.
Well, they should have stepped up. So many people have died unnecessarily. If we had just one person killed, it's one death too many. We should value the lives of our citizens. We should value the lives of our brothers. We should value the lives of our children. No. The average age in Cameroon is 19.7. So if people have been killed in Manfi, so it's a youth, it's a future of this nation that we're killing. It's unacceptable. The gendarmes too that are killed is wrong. We cannot take our issues, people in uniform, they represent the state. So we have to find a way to bring both sides to the table.
Now, what is the solution to this? Because what is the role of traditional rulers?
Well, the traditional rulers, again, the traditional rulers in the past and the current day traditional rulers have different roles. In the past, the traditional rulers were heavily respected. They respected themselves. They took decisions that were in the best interest of their people. But the traditional rulers we have today, not all of them, but a good number of them, they worry only about their stomach and their children. And if that is the case, the population is saying, Mr. Chief or Mr. Ruler, the decisions you are making is not in our best interest. It's only in the best interest of your family and those around you. And it's most unfortunate. And it is part of the degradation of our culture. And it is across the board. We have to stop that. We have to go back to the era where we respected our chiefs, we respected our rulers, and our rulers understand that they are there for the people and by the people. They are not there for their stomachs.
Now, climate change has often been dismissed as non-existent by people who refuse to believe the phenomenon is real, including US President Donald Trump, as leaders are deliberated this week in Paris on how to accelerate climate finance at the One Planet Summit. We explain the reality of climate change in Cameroon and elsewhere in Africa. Let's watch this report. We'll be right back.
La finance pour le climat doit s'organiser pour être efficace. C'est le thème du sommet One Planet Summit qui s'est ouvert ce mercredi 12 décembre en France à la date d'anniversaire de l'accord de Paris signé en 2015 à l'issue de la COP21. L'objectif affiché de cette réunion est de pousser les diplomates et les financiers à être plus ambitieux en matière de protection du climat en investissant dans une nouvelle économie décarbonée. Avec son massif forestier, deuxième mondial après celui de l'Amazonie, l'Afrique centrale a bien évidemment un rôle à jouer, car elle représente un vrai gisement en carbone. Participant aux travaux de ce matin, les ministres Lejeune Belambela des Relations extérieures, Pierre Ailé de l'Environnement, de la Protection de la Nature et du Développement durable, et enfin Ngolé Philippe Ngwese des Forêts et de la Faune ont réaffirmé l'adhésion du Cameroun à l'accord de Paris. Ils ont également invité les bailleurs de fonds et les partenaires à soutenir le Cameroun en finançant nos projets de développement.
Et nous avons également un projet très important. Il faut quand même, dans le cadre de la lutte contre la déforestation et la dégradation de forêts, nous avons un grand projet, tant nous sommes un pays de grande superficie en termes de forêt. Mais à l'heure actuelle, nous sommes en train de remplir nos obligations en termes de la biodiversité, les aires protégées, autant de choses que nous faisons et qui demandent effectivement que nous avons beaucoup de financement. Donc nous attendons beaucoup, mais nous sommes venus bien armés avec notre président de la République qui va donc au très haut, disons, la voie du Cameroun ici.
Pour les pays en développement ou sur la route de l'émergence, parmi lesquels le Cameroun, la réduction des émissions de gaz à effet de serre reste conditionnée à un soutien de la communauté internationale, notamment les pays industrialisés sous forme de financement et de transfert de technologies.
Welcome back. I'm still accompanied by Charles Nana. He is a former United States Senate candidate, rather. We're talking about climate change with the Paris Summit, the One Planet Summit. Now, how do you think this can impact African countries, Cameroon inclusive?
Well, I'm very glad. I'm extremely glad that Donald Trump has reversed route, because if you remember, he had in the Paris conference, I think how many months ago, he went there, I think in March of this year, he went there and said he does not believe in climate change. Climate change is real, it has impact, and people, that is why we see a lot of flooding in certain areas. We have bad weather in certain areas because of the climatic changes that we have. We need to control the environment. We need to leave the environment better than we met it. That is a responsibility we have for our own children, for the future generation. And that is why there are emission controls, there are a lot of other things that are put in place to make sure that we leave the environment, we sustain the environment and leave the environment better than better than the way we met it.
Now, what's the reality of climate change in Cameroon and African countries?
By heavy rainfall, flooding, landslides. In other places in Cameroon, there are places in Cameroon that we see landslides, and a lot of other issues.
Now, what's the solution to that?
Well,
do you think by attending such a summit is going to impact change? Do you think the solutions from there can help us change mentality, can help us to fight against climate change?
Yes, if everybody agrees and recognizes that climate change is real, what does that mean? We need to go to practical solutions. It means in certain parts of the world we have to be planting trees. You don't just root, like we have a lot of rainfalls. We just cannot be bulldozing and destroying the forest, because those affect climate. So we want to make sure we're cautious, we preserve certain areas, and then the ecological balance so we have, there are a lot of things, it has a lot of impact.
But Africa too has to draw experience from other other countries, which are or from non-African countries, right?
Of course. You have the Chinese. In the US, for example, there are a lot of limits on pollution. There are a lot of limits on the type of gases you emit in the atmosphere, because all of those impact climate. And we're hoping that the rest of the world, a lot of business people are fighting it too, because they want to invest without any regulations. But we have to say, no, you cannot be polluting the environment and assuming that, I read a report somewhere that Africa seems to be the most polluted part, one of the most polluted continents in the world, because we don't take climate change seriously. We don't take a lot of other issues seriously. So such a summit is very important, because the rules and the agreements they have, African countries that are signatory to it will have to respect it, or at least make an effort to respect it.
Now we have this problem of mentality of the people. Don't you think it needs to be addressed as well?
Of course, it's part of the whole game. We have to educate people to understand that this is real.
Because you can take the solutions or decisions there, but back here, people still have their own mentality. They know they have a way of going about their things.
Yes, they have the way of going about the things, but government, that's one part of the role of the government, to educate its population. So when you come to this area and you burn all the trees, you're causing an impact, you're damaging the environment, right? A particular way in which you do that. And if you come here and there was a stream flowing here, you come and cover it and try to build on it, you're causing changes to the environment. And all of those have consequences.
All right. Now, I want to thank you for honoring the invitation.
It's always my pleasure.
And to you out there, we say thank you for watching. To take another round, same time next week.